You know that feeling, right? You're trying to explain something really important, and you are absolutely sure you're being crystal clear.
Uh-huh. Total clarity in your head.
Exactly. And then you just get blank stares. Or, maybe worse, they nod, but later it's obvious, like nothing actually stuck.
Yeah, like talking into the wind. That disconnect is, well, it's universal, I think. That feeling your message just didn't land.
Totally. But then, you think about other times. Simple chats, maybe, and just a few words, often really ordinary words, they somehow click, they build a bridge, or get someone to actually do something.
Right. What's the difference there? It's usually not some fancy vocabulary or, a killer argument.
Yeah.
The real magic often seems hidden in just how things are said, the timing, the tone, even just the specific phrase.
And that's exactly what we want to get into today. Unpacking that power. This isn't about learning tricks or like manipulating people.
No, not at all.
It's about understanding the influence that's already baked into the simple words we use all the time.
And for this deep dive, we're looking at the key ideas from Tim David's book, Magic Words, drawing from a summary we explored. And his background is pretty interesting.
Yeah, you mentioned he started out as a magician. That seems like quite a jump.
It does, doesn't it? But it gave him this unique perspective. He realized the real magic wasn't the sleight of hand, the card tricks.
Okay.
It was the story. The narrative he built around the trick using language. The audience, they didn't just react to the illusion itself. They bought into the whole story, the anticipation, the wonder his words created.
So it wasn't the visual trick, but the verbal setup.
Pretty much. And that insight, how language shapes belief and perception, that became his focus. He started digging into the psychology, the communication science behind it.
So why do some words connect and others just, fall flat or even push people away?
Well, the core idea he presents is that words aren't just data packets. They actively shape outcomes. They open doors or they slam them shut. And the most potent ones, the words you already use. The shift comes from using them with intention.
Okay, so it's not about learning new words, but being deliberate with the ones we have.
Exactly. And he points out this common trap we fall into. We often talk just to be heard right, or to prove we're right, or sound smart, or just get our way.
Yeah, that sounds familiar.
But that's not the same as talking to actually connect with someone. Real influence, the kind that builds trust and makes things happen, comes from that genuine connection.
Which kind of explains why you can have a perfectly logical argument, bulletproof points, and it still fails miserably.
Totally. The logic might be flawless, but if the connection isn't there, the words just bounce off. The wrong word, even if factually accurate, can create distance.
But the right word.
The right word, used thoughtfully, builds a bridge. So influence here isn't manipulation. It's using language intentionally for clarity, for empathy, for impact. It's ordinary words used with extraordinary care.
Okay, let's dig into some specifics. Give me one of these magic words that seems totally mundane.
All right, let's start with maybe the simplest. Because.
Because. Really? That just feels basic, like sentence glue.
It does seem basic. But our brains are apparently wired to look for reasons. When we hear because, it sort of flips a switch. It signals, okay, justification incoming, pay attention. Even if just for a second, it makes us lean in, expecting a rationale.
And wasn't there that the study you mentioned? The one with the copier?
Yes. The classic copy machine experiment. It's fascinating. Researchers found people were way more likely to let someone cut in line just because they used the word because.
Even with a flimsy reason.
Even with a reason like, can I use the copier because I need to make copies? Which is, obvious. But adding because massively increased how often people said yes, compared to just asking straight up.
Wow. So it wasn't the strength of the reason itself.
It seems the presence of the word because was the key. It acted like a trigger, activating this mental shortcut. Okay, there's a reason here, probably fine. So using because isn't just about logic. It signals respect. It says, I'm not just demanding something. I'm sharing my thinking. It includes the listener.
Whether you're asking for a favor or setting a boundary.
Exactly. It adds weight.
That's genuinely surprising for such a small word. Okay, what's another one?
Let's shift to something really personal. Using someone's name.
Right, we hear that advice a lot. Dale Carnegie stuff, maybe?
And there's good science backing it up. Your brain literally has a special response to the sound of your own name.
Really?
Yeah. Even in a noisy room, hearing your name cuts through the buzz. It grabs your focus. The source highlights that it activates specific brain areas linked to our identity, our sense of self.
It makes you feel noticed, acknowledged.
Precisely. Using someone's name just changes the vibe of the conversation instantly. It creates familiarity, reduces that feeling of distance, adds warmth. It tells the other person, I see you, you're part of this.
But there's a big but here, isn't
Yeah.
there? It needs to feel real.
Oh, absolutely crucial. It's not a tactic to just sprinkle in robotically. If you overuse it or say it without actually being present, it feels clunky or worse, manipulative.
Yeah, like a salesperson reading a script.
Exactly. The suggestion from the source is more about thoughtful placement. Maybe once near the start to connect. Perhaps again if you're saying something specifically about them or for them, and maybe once near the end to reinforce rapport.
So genuine connection, not just checking a box.
That's the key. Sincerity.
Okay, what about words that build agreement? Get things moving forward.
Ah, that brings us to yes, but maybe not in the way you first think. It's not just about getting the big final yes.
Yeah.
It's more about creating a kind of rhythm, a series of small, genuine yeses.
A rhythm of yes. How does that work psychologically?
Well, it taps into that consistency principle. We humans, we generally like to be consistent with things we've already said or committed to.
Right.
So if you can get someone to genuinely agree with something small, something easy, a yes, they feel this internal pull to stay consistent. It makes them a little more open to the next thing, maybe something slightly bigger.
So you don't just jump to the main request. You start with common ground, something undeniable.
Exactly. Find a shared observation. Bit chilly today, isn't it? Yes. Or a simple point you both agree on. Each little yes builds momentum. It builds trust. It's like warming up.
Ah, I see. One yes makes the next one easier. It's building forward motion.
You got it. Influence doesn't have to be a big push. It can be a series of gentle nods.
That's a neat shift in perspective, building agreement brick by brick.
Right. Now let's look at a word that does the opposite of pushing. It invites. The word is if.
If? That sounds
Uh-huh.
conditional, maybe a bit weak.
It sounds less certain, maybe, but that's its strength. It taps into imagination, and crucially, it removes the feeling of pressure. It suggests possibilities instead of stating demands.
Okay, give me an example.
Think about saying, you need to change how you handle customer complaints. How does that feel?
Defensive probably, like I'm being told off.
Right. Now compare it to, if you tried responding within the first hour, you might find customer satisfaction goes up.
Yeah. That feels totally different. It's like an option, an exploration, not an order.
Exactly. If disarms question, because it clearly offers a choice. It gives the power, the agency back to the listener. It's guiding, not shoving, suggesting, not commanding. It turns a potential lecture into a shared thought experiment.
And people are way more likely to buy into something if they feel they chose it.
Precisely. If opens a window where a command might just build a wall.
I can definitely see using that in tricky feedback situations.
Absolutely. Okay, now for a word that's super common, but often used in a way that backfires. But.
Yes. The classic compliment sandwich killer. That was great, but...
Exactly. It acts like a neurological eraser for whatever came right before it. The brain hears but and immediately discounts the first part, focusing entirely on what comes after.
Like the example in the source. You're doing a fantastic job, but you missed these couple of things.
And what do you remember?
The missed things.
Ooh, the criticism.
Right. The but shines a spotlight right there. Now just flip it. You missed these couple things, but overall, you're doing a fantastic job.
Oh, yeah. That lands completely differently. The end note is positive, uplifting.
That's the power. But is a directional signal. It tells the listener's brain where to focus attention. Put the negative first, then but, then the positive, and the positive gets the emphasis.
So you're not ignoring the problem, you're just framing it constructively, guiding the focus.
Exactly. It's a powerful reframing tool. It's about intentionally directing attention in a more helpful, maybe more hopeful direction.
Wow, okay. Not just a conjunction, but a spotlight controller.
Think of it that way. Intentional redirection. Okay, next up, a phrase that screams respect and invites cooperation. Would you be willing?
Would you be willing? Yeah, that sounds much softer than, can you do this?
Yeah.
Or I need you to. And that softness is precisely where its power comes from. It explicitly acknowledges the other person's autonomy. their freedom to
It's
choose.
not a demand, it's an invitation.
Exactly. It signals respect for their time, their priorities, their right to potentially say no. Asking, would you be willing, changes the dynamic from potential command to collaboration.
It feels like you're asking for their consideration, their partnership, not just issuing an order.
Right. It transforms a potential demand into a conversation, a requirement into a request based on mutual respect. When people feel their choice is respected, they don't feel cornered.
And they're more likely to commit genuinely.
Far more likely, because they feel heard and valued from the start. It shows empathy. I recognize you have your own stuff going on. Are you open to considering this? It fosters cooperation because it starts by respecting their agency.
That just feels human. Makes total sense.
And finally, maybe the most fundamental one, often said but maybe not always felt, thank you.
Thank you. Good manners 101, right?
It is basic manners, yes, but it's also profoundly powerful for connection and influence. Saying thank you isn't just etiquette. It's a direct signal of recognition and value.
And tell someone I saw that. I appreciate that.
Exactly. And in a world where, let's face it, people often feel overlooked or taken for granted, genuine gratitude really stands out.
Yeah, you remember when someone sincerely thanks you for something?
You do. The source emphasizes that sincere thanks builds relationships, deepens loyalty, creates trust. It's not just about acknowledging a result, but the effort, the thought, the time someone invested, that feeling of being genuinely appreciated. It resonates. It creates this positive emotional echo.
So it's good manners and good psychology.
Absolutely. Profound human connection, really.
Okay, wow. So we've got because, using their name, yes, if, but, would you be willing, and thank you. On their own, they seem so. Every day, what's the common thread? What makes them magic together?
The thread is intention. That's what ties them all together. These aren't tricks. They're reflections of core human psychology, how we connect, how we want to be treated.
So because offers a reason, respecting their intellect.
Using their name acknowledges their unique identity.
Building with yes creates alignment, shared ground.
Offering if honors their autonomy, invites exploration.
Using but carefully guides focus constructively.
Asking, would you be willing, respects their choice explicitly, and saying thank you validates their effort and value. It's all about demonstrating respect and seeking connection.
So it's not about learning lines, but about being more mindful, more present, more human in how we talk.
That's exactly it. Tim David's point, from what we see in the source, isn't about becoming a script-reading robot. It's about slowing down just enough to be intentional, to notice the impact our words have.
In a world that's often noisy and feels disconnected.
These simple words, used with care, they cut through. They signal you're actually engaged, you're respecting the other person, not just trying to win or dump information.
It makes you realize language isn't just neutral data transfer. It carries feeling, energy.
Absolutely. It's often the subtle difference between, say, conflict and cooperation, or between confusion and clarity, between feeling disconnected and feeling understood. Words build walls or bridges, create tension or trust.
And it sounds like you don't need a massive vocabulary or perfect grammar to wield this power.
Not at all. It's about the care, the intention behind the words. Are you speaking at them or with them?
Because deep down, what everyone wants, fundamentally, is to feel seen, heard, and valued.
Right. Not controlled, not lectured, but understood. Not pressured, but met with presence and respect. That's the real human magic these words unlock when used with genuine intention.
They become tools not for manipulation, but for transformation, turning tricky interactions into chances for actual connection.
Think about those high-stakes moments. A job interview, a tough family talk, a business negotiation. Often it's not changing the facts that shifts everything. It's changing the words around the facts, building that bridge instead of reinforcing a wall.
So influence, in this sense, isn't about controlling the outcome.
No, it's more about opening the door, creating the conditions where your words can actually be felt, not just heard, where conversations become these shared journeys built on intentional, respectful language.
So the big takeaway here is the power isn't locked away somewhere secret. It's right here in the everyday words we already use.
Exactly. They're the tools. Your intention is what makes them transformative, your focus on connection.
Right.
And maybe here's a challenge for you listening, something concrete from the source. Just pick one. Pick one of these ideas today. Maybe it's consciously using someone's name with genuine warmth, or making a point to say thank you and mean it, or maybe softening the request with, would you be willing?
Just one small intentional shift.
Yeah. See what happens, see how it feels, and maybe carry this thought forward.
Yeah.
Your words have echoes. They don't just vanish. They shape how people feel, how they see you, how they respond. They build your relationships moment by moment.
The real magic happens when that intention meets attention.
Exactly. When you choose your words not just to talk, but to truly connect.